Hey, sports fans, it's Rich Herrera once again. Wildcats Radio 1290 at CBS Sports Radio, joined as always by my buddy Bret Boone for Boone's Corner. Boone, how are you?
Rich, I'm doing well. Looking forward to another Boone's Corner. It's been a minute.
5 questions for Bret Boone. Today's subject is umpires. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Number one, you know what? Lots of calls for robo umpires right now around Major League Baseball. Give me your thoughts.
Man, it's a tough time for umpires right now. It's not that the umpires have gotten any worse. It's that our technology's gotten better. So everybody at home with their popcorn on the couch, they got that little box that they put up. The umpire doesn't have the luxury of that box. He's still a human being, and there's going to be human error. The problem with it is they're being graded on that box. So a guy like Jose Altuve, who's 5'7", and then there's a guy like Aaron Judge, who's 6'7". The umpires are taking that same box into consideration. So
the one that we see on TV,
without a doubt. So Altuve is going to get calls right here, and Judge is going to get calls below the knee because of that box. I think it's something in the modern day, as great as the technology is, it's also a deficit for these umpires because they're not calling a true zone. They're not letting the human element take over and considering who's in the box.
But let's take it one step further, because that box is for entertainment purposes only.
But it's not taken that way by the fans.
Right, because the real box that the umpires are judged on, we don't get access to. We don't see it. The technology is much better. The technology will move up and down for Altuve versus Judge. That's what they're truly judged on. So all these people that complain about the strike calls and the umpires, they're looking at the wrong grading key. They're trying to grade a test that's in German using Swahili.
Exactly. And the best umpires I had in my career, Rich, were the guys that established the zone early in the game. So I go up my first at bat. I know, hey, he's calling an inch off the plate away, but he's giving me that call on the inside. He might be calling a little bit up, but not going to call the pitch down. That's what a fair zone is. That's what the umpires have, since the beginning of time, have always established. The best umpires I've ever been involved with, they establish the zone early, and then they stick with that zone. And as a player, that's all you can ask for. The problem with the box and the problem with the lines, if your average fan sitting at home sees that ball tick one part of that box, they're not taking into consideration the depth on that pitch, the curveball that starts out of the zone, touches the zone, but crossed the plate out of the zone. The technology doesn't show you that. So it's really frustrating for me sitting at home when I'm hearing all these, well, we need robo-umps. It's tougher than it looks, and these umpires are putting up with it because of the technology we have today.
Okay, question for you. Ready? I got a baseball here. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, how much of this baseball needs to be over the plate? Do I do a quarter, 1/3? Do I need half? Do I need 2/3 for it to be a strike?
I think it needs to touch the zone, whatever that zone is.
Right. So if we're looking here and I have the baseball, is that a strike right there?
Yes.
How about this right there?
Yes.
Okay. And the difference between it, whether I'm going to squeeze you or I'm going to be very liberal with my strike zone, is, am I going to make you get the whole thing in the strike zone? Am I going to get you just to get it just a little bit in the strike zone?
Right. And let's take it one step further. You're going to take into consideration who's on the mound. If a pitcher on the mound can establish the fact that he can put that ball where he wants to, and that catcher sets up and he's hitting that glove consistently, you're going to be more apt. And that's another human element thing is, well, I know when he sets up there, he sets up right on that corner and that man hits the glove. You're going to get the benefit of the doubt. If you're going to call for a fastball away and miss up and in consistently, you're not going to get that borderline strike.
If I'm trying to hit the microphone, let's say the microphone's a target, and I'm Greg Maddux and I'm hitting it here, and I'm getting right here. I'm around the strike zone all day long. And then the next pitcher comes in and I'm trying to hit the microphone and I'm up here, I'm over here, I'm down here, I'm nowhere near it. And then the one time I get it close and I don't get that call, what are you doing? You're squeezing me.
Without a doubt.
Hit the strike zone all day long.
And Rich, the funny thing to me was during my day and during that Atlanta Braves great run where they had Smoltz, Maddox, Glavine, and it was pretty much Maddox and Glavine that said, oh, they get a foot off the plate. Well, think about this. If you're an umpire, you're hearing the snivels. As an umpire, when Maddox and Glavine are pitching, aren't you going to take it upon yourself from a pride perspective and say, I'm not going to give him that 3 inches off the plate. I'm going to really grind in this during this ball game. Of course, what they're not taking into consideration is it's the illusion factor. Glavine had that illusion factor where he could fake out the umpire. That's why he was so great. So he could make a pitch off the plate appear that it was a strike. It's not that the umpire was saying, oh, it's Glavine on the mound, I'm going to give him it out here, because he's already got that pressure from the hitter saying, hey, keep the zone tight tonight. I know with Maddox and Glavine, they get that. No, it's because they were so good and so elusive. They got this great, they got the borderline pitches consistently. That's the difference between a Hall of Fame pitcher and not a Hall of Fame pitcher.
And again, remember, we're tracking with your eyes. You're not turning your head. You're
right.
Tracking with your eyes. You're the umpire. I went to umpire school. We've talked about this before. I understand that if I had my head down here, I'm going to miss a pitch. And I had to square up my shoulders, keep my chin out, and I couldn't follow the ball with my head. I had to track it with my eyes. And that's Rich, how they do it.
Without a doubt. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but as time's going on and the analytics are getting into the game and the data is getting into the game, the strike zone has really gone north and south. It's expanded north and south. East, west, they pulled it in a little bit. So guys today, when they're talking pitching, well, you need to get those corners. Well, they're not given the corners like they used to, but they're given the high strike like they didn't used to do, if that makes sense.
Okay. Number two, you touched on it, whether it's Glavine, Smoltz, a guy who can just paint corners, a Picasso, if you will.
Right.
What's a relationship like between an umpire and a player? How much can you give them grief? How much will they take? And is there a way about letting them know, I didn't like that strike, without having words being said?
That's a great point. And that's kind of inside the game stuff, you know, and I teach the young kids I work with, or my son, he said, Dad, called strike, that's not a strike. What do I do? I said, you let that man know, but you let him know in a respectful way. If you're just yes, sir, no, sirring all the time, that umpire is going to give you no respect. You're going to get respect by what you do on the field, but also how you interact with the umpire behind the plate. If you give him in a firm way, it doesn't mean you're going to talk about his mother, Rich. Sorry to bring that in. But if you basically say, hey, Johnny, that ball's off the plate, get better, and you keep your head down, don't show him up on camera, he may have a problem with it. Say, no, it was on the plate. It was on the plate. You're going to have this back and forth, but I'll guarantee you the next time that similar pitch is thrown, he's going to think about it.
Did you ever have to apologize to an umpire if you said that was a horrible call? Then you go back upstairs and go, actually, it was a strike.
Well, I hate to say it, but I thought I was rarely wrong. But to answer your question, yes, it did happen on a rare occasion. It happened with Randy Johnson to me twice. He threw me a front door sinker. And for those out there listening, what a front door sinker is one that starts at my body and comes back over the inside plate. From a left-hander, it would be a two-seamer. I couldn't believe my eyes. He did it to me twice. He front doored me with it. And I jumped out of the way. And I know, I've been there for thousands and thousands of at-bats. And I said, that's a ball. I know it's a ball. I went into the media room and I watched and I said, Carl, who was our media guy, Carl, that's a strike. And Mr. Boone was wrong this time. It happened. And I'll tell you, I was the first one to go out to that umpire next bat and say, I apologize. That was a strike. I need to get better. So yes, without a doubt, I have no problem admitting when I was off a little bit.
Okay, let's get to our third question of the day. You ready?
Yes.
How do umpires control the game? We saw Joey Votto was chirping the other day at the Cubs. Cubs are chirping back. Home plate umpire took off his mask. He said, that's enough. I don't want to hear any more of this. Knock it off right now. A lot of fans got mad. Hey, I don't show up to watch the umpire telling the players are chastising him. It's part of game management. How are they supposed to control the game? Because once I let the chirping going, the emotions start getting a little bit hotter and a little bit higher. Before you know it, people are getting drilled in the ribs.
Once again, that's the reverse respect. Players are going to get the respect. You earn your respect by how you handle yourself, what type of player you are. Are you a guy that complains about every ball and every strike? Well, then that umpire has a tendency to dismiss you. Same goes from the player umpire relationship. There are umpires out there that have huge respect, and when they're told knock it off, all right, he's telling us to knock it off. I respect that guy. We're going to knock it off. The guys that don't and kind of try to make it their show all the time, well, they're going to have a big set of problems. It's no different than any other industry out there. In the media business, Rich, there's certain guys you look to when he says something, hey, I believe him because that guy's a straight shooter. Same thing on the field. When you got an umpire that's put his time in, that is a good umpire, that doesn't make a show every time he's out there. The fact that he's bringing that to me now, it must be getting out of hand, and I need to do my part to diffuse the situation. Yeah, the fans are there. It's entertainment, just like going to the movies. We're entertainers, but at the same time, he needs to move that game on in a professional manner.
All right, let's move this along. I'm going to have game management. I'm going to hustle you through this. Do people confuse a bad umpire with an umpire who's kind of a hard ass? Like a teacher. Your favorite teachers are the ones that didn't give you a lot of homework, but they weren't necessarily teaching you the most.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. There are some umpires there that from a fan's perspective have a very bad reputation. Oh, he's horrible. He's this and that. Usually the flamboyant ones. But sometimes they're really good. Only people that know are the players that are in that box, the pitchers that are on that mound day after day after day. They're the only ones that know truly, is that guy a showman or is he a really good umpire?
Last question. You ready?
I'm ready.
Would you ever want to be an umpire?
Never in a million years would I want to be an umpire. I don't want to go through what they go through. And Rich, let me tell you this as we're ending our segment. Most of the umpires out there are really good guys and really want to do the best job they can. They have a ton of integrity. They grind it out just like we do as players. They're human. They're going to make mistakes, but when that game starts, they want to give the best honest effort and call what they think's a strike and what they think a ball is a ball. I would say 90% of the guys out there, without a doubt, come to work with that in mind. If I just got to keep the integrity, do the best job I can. There are wild cards, definitely, like in any industry, but for the most part, those guys are good guys. That being said, I would never want to be an umpire.
All right, this is going to be a bonus question because your boys played youth baseball. They played high school baseball, college baseball. Right now, we have a lack of folks that want to step up and be an umpire or be a referee because the parents and the kids are crazy. You look on Facebook, you look on Twitter, you look on Instagram, you'll find posts every day of kids screaming and yelling and parents pushing and shoving, people taking swings at referees. Do we need to cut them a little bit of slack, especially in youth sports?
I always give them some slack, if that's the word, because it is a tough job, especially at the lower levels. And I would always talk to a fellow coach when I did the youth coaching. I said, listen, big league umpires, they're not always the best. And then you go to minor leagues, then you go to college, then you go to high school. I said, what do you think the quality of umpiring a 12-year-old game is? This is a guy that wants to make a little extra money and doing the best job he can. We can't expect him to be big league quality for $45 a game. Just like a gallon of milk right now, Rich, going up. I think, especially with the parents and everybody's son is the best and needs to hit third, fourth, play short and pitch at the same time. That's the kind of culture we're in. Maybe you got to raise the price and make it a little more lucrative for those umpires to put up what they do.
I don't know if I do it for $15. I don't know if I go umpire a T-ball game for $15 and have the abuse that you get your way. So parents, chill out just a little bit. Wait till they get to the big leagues and you got to pay $20 to see them play before you yell and scream at the umpire.
Right.
There you go. Boone's Corner for today. Mr. Boone, thank you so much. Hey, don't forget, check out the Boone podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify. He's everywhere. Some of the guests you've had on the program.
Well, recently we had Don Mattingly. It was really interesting for me because, I played against Donnie a little bit. I was around him as a kid. First time I got to sit down and have a conversation with him. Really interesting. He's out this week. We've got Rick Spielman coming up, the former general manager of the Vikings. He takes us behind the scenes, what it was like. What's it like on draft day? Is it like the movie with Kevin Costner? How much reality is there? It was really interesting. And one of the most interesting podcasts that I've done, and we're coming up on 200 now, Rich, was a guy by the name of Mike Zagaris. He's a photographer to the Stars. He's the A's personal photographer. He's the 49ers photographer. He's been on tour with the Rolling Stones. As an athlete, we like to hear the other side. I know all the baseball stories, but him telling me about being on tour with the Rolling Stones and hanging out with Eric Clapton and the advice he got, Man, it's a really interesting one. That's going to be coming up next week. In a couple weeks, you got the big guy in golf, John Daly. I'm really excited about that. That ought to be interesting. But podcast is rolling along, having a good time with it.
The Boone Podcast. Check it out wherever you get your podcast. Mr. Boone, we'll do this again soon.
You got it. Thanks, Rich.
All right, that's Boone's Corner for today.